Rawhide, usually seen at this time, will not be seen tonight, so that we may bring you the second discussion between Vice President Richard M. Nixon and Vice President Richard M. Nixon. Rawhide will return next week at its regular time on most of these stations.
I think the most important issue in this election is economic policy. I'd like to hear my opponent's economic policy.
I want to make a lot of oil men rich.
Well, that's where we disagree. I would like to make pimps rich. I believe if we enact legislation whereby pimps would become rich, it would trickle down to all areas of society. For instance, the manufacturers of those large hats would show increased profit margins.
I don't think we should have that kind of a program.
Well, what do you know? Another area where we have a great deal of disagreement is in the defense of this nation. My opponent feels that we should fire our nuclear missiles at other countries whether we're at war with them or not.
We must use all of these weapons.
He is absolutely determined to go through with this use all the missile strategy.
So we must use all of these weapons.
He's starting to give me the creeps.
We must use all of these weapons.
He also thinks we should use the states of Vermont and New Hampshire for nuclear testing.
That the question is not these two little pieces of real estate. They are unimportant. It isn't the few people who live on them. They are not too important. It's the principle involved.
His Joint Chiefs of Staff would consist of convicted murderers and sex offenders.
These are determined men. They are fanatical men.
My opponent wants imprisoned Nazi Rudolf Hess to be his vice president. What qualifications does he have?
A man who has enslaved millions. A man who has slaughtered thousands.
If my opponent is such a wonderful military strategist, I challenge him to a staring contest right here in front of the American people. I win! He can't even beat me in a staring contest. In what areas do you think you and your running mate are more qualified than my ticket?
We're the best fed. We're the best clothed.
All right, I'll grant you that. Anyone can tell that just by looking at you. Do you have any other strengths?
We have no compassion for the poor, that we are against progress.
On that subject, we're in total agreement. But I cannot agree with your policy of mandatory castration.
All the experts who have studied the program indicate that it is the most fantastic program.
Of course, all these so-called experts are mental institution inmates. I don't think insane people should be running the government.
This is the same kind of woolly thinking that led to disaster for America.
My opponent has demonstrated that he's mentally unstable, and I think would agree that that should be a consideration when you go to the polls next Tuesday.
Now that, of course, is just one factor, but it's a significant one.
I think it's obvious that I won the debate. I think even my opponent would admit that.
He will move America faster and further than I will.
This thing's over. I'm gonna go get a hooker.